Hello. Sit down, sit down. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that warm welcome, my fellow, I don't know, what should I call you? I guess I should say welcome, my fellow hunters. Greetings. Greetings, my fellow Second Amendment enthusiasts, but you know, in the age of Barack Obama, I don't know exactly what to call you, because after all, as he said, because we're bitter and economically anxious, we cling to our guns and we cling to our faith. Does that make us clingers? Or does that make us Klingons? I don't know, I don't get it. Now, you probably didn't know that you hunted out of economic anxiety, and if the gasoline was $1.50 a gallon, you wouldn't be hunting. You probably thought you hunted because you enjoyed the outdoors and companionship with family and friends, but that's not true. You probably thought you shot, trap, and skeet, or rifle or pistol practice because it was fun and competitive, but, you know, according to Barack Obama, that's not true. You probably thought you became proficient with a pistol because you enjoyed it, or because you felt you needed to protect your family or your business, but according to Barack Obama, that's not true. No, Senator Barack Obama says we cling to our guns, our faith, and xenophobia because we're concerned about our jobs and we're just so bitter. Well, Senator Obama's wrong. What we cling to, ladies and gentlemen, is the fundamental right to keep and bear arms, the Second Amendment, and the Constitution of the United States of America. You know, it's revealing. It is revealing where and why Senator Obama made those comments. He made them at a fundraiser in San Francisco, in Pacific Heights, to a bunch of the white wine sipping swells to explain why he was going to lose the primary in Pennsylvania. You know, his mother was an anthropologist, and like mother, like son. He was reporting to his people about his weird anthropological expedition to a distant, exotic, weird part of the globe, small town in rural Pennsylvania. Those people have odd habits and strange beliefs, and he needed to explain them to his people out there in San Francisco. You saw what happened. In the 50 smallest counties in Pennsylvania, the small towns and the rural areas where they were clinging so hard to their guns, their faith, and their xenophobia, Barack Obama got 35% of the vote, and Hillary Clinton got 278,000 vote margin in a state she carried by 208,000 votes. That's what Senator Obama got, and maybe he's a little bitter about it today himself. You know, the reaction to his scientific observation provides a couple of lessons. First, if you're going to say something about Pennsylvanians, you better say it in Pennsylvania or not at all. If you're going to say something about people who live in small towns in the country, don't say it in San Francisco. And if you're going to ask Americans for one of their most precious possessions, their vote, don't be dismissive and don't be condescending and then expect to get it. You know, last Tuesday night's 41-point defeat in West Virginia also shows people outside of Pennsylvania heard Barack Obama's dismissive and condescending comment. And they didn't care he was the presumptive nominee for the Democratic Party. They had a message for him. Voters in West Virginia, historically one of the most democratic states in the Union, don't like somebody who looks down on their values. And we here today have news for Barack Obama. The values of those people you diminished are the values of America. And those people don't like being patronized or viewed as an alien species by a fellow who pretends to embody the new politics, and especially by someone who wants to be president not of red states and blue states, but of the United States. Now, I'd like to focus my comments today on an issue I think might be of some concern to you. And as the owner of 3 shotguns, it's a little bit of an interest to me. Barack Obama now does admit that the Second Amendment has an individual right to keep and bear arms. We ought to be happy a graduate of Harvard Law School, the editor of the Law Review, is willing to admit that. But Barack Obama has a strange way of acting on that knowledge. For while the sum of his experience is 3 years in the United States Senate and 2 terms in the Illinois State Senate, he does have a long record of hostility to Second Amendment rights. Barack Obama may now admit there's an individual right to keep and bear arms in the Second Amendment, but when he ran for the state Senate in 1996, he filled out a questionnaire from the independent voters of Illinois, in which he wrote that he supported a complete ban on the manufacture, sale, and possession of all handguns. When the IVI questionnaire came to light last year, he denied he'd ever seen it or filled it out. But then the campaign was forced to admit, you know what? That was his handwriting, and he did fill it out personally. What happened to that person who recently said he was going to be a different kind of presidential candidate because unlike Senator McCain and Senator Clinton, he could be counted on always, always, always to tell the truth? Barack Obama may now admit there's a personal right to keep and bear arms in the Second Amendment, but in 1998, according to his responses to that year's Project Vote Smart Illinois State Legislative Election National Political Awareness Test, try saying that 3 times fast, he pledged to ban, quote, the sale or transfer of all forms of semi-automatic weapons, end quote. Barack Obama may now admit there's an individual right to keep and bear arms in the Second Amendment, but in 1999, the Chicago Defender reported State Senator Obama, quote, is proposing to make it a felony for a gun owner whose firearm was stolen from his residence, which causes harm to another person if that weapon was not securely stored in the home, end quote. Barack Obama may now admit there's an individual right to keep and bear arms in the Second Amendment, but in 2001, he pressed for a law to require gun owners to register with the state of Illinois. As the State Journal Register put it, quote, the proposals would make gun owners apply in person for a firearms owner identification card and supply their photos and fingerprints, end quote. Barack Obama may now admit there's an individual right to keep and bear arms in the Second Amendment, but in 2001, the Hyde Park Herald reported, quote, State Senator Barack Obama, D13, helped defeat a bill that would allow people to receive an order of protection to possess and carry a concealed firearm. He told the newspaper, quote, it was a bad idea, and I'm glad it failed. Barack Obama may now admit that there's a Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms, but in 1999, the Wall Street Journal reports, quote, Mr. Obama urged enactment of a federal law prohibiting the operation of any gun store within 5 miles of a school or park. This would eliminate gun stores from almost the entire inhabited portion of the United States, close quote. By contrast, in the same year, State Senator Obama voted present, refusing to support a bill that would restrict adult use establishments by prohibiting locations within 1,000 feet of a school of worship, or excuse me, a school, a place of worship, a preschool, a daycare, or a residential area. Now let me get this straight. According to Barack Obama, gun stores are dangerous within 5 miles of a school or a park, but a nudie show isn't if it's within 1,000 feet of a school or park. This guy's got his priorities all upside down. Now, Barack Obama may admit that there's an individual right to keep and bear arms in the Second Amendment, but in 2003, State Senator Obama voted for State Bill 1195, which the Illinois State Rifle Association said would have banned most of the privately held shotguns, target rifles, and black powder rifles in the entire state of Illinois. Barack Obama may now admit that there's a Second Amendment constitutional right to keep and bear arms, but in 2004, State Senator Obama voted 4 times against legislation protecting homeowners from prosecution in cases where they used a firearm to halt a home invasion. 4 times. Barack Obama may now admit there's a Second Amendment constitutional right to keep and bear arms, but in 2004, when asked in a questionnaire, quote, "Do you support legislation to ban the manufacture, sale, and possession of assault weapons," end quote, his response was short and to the point: yes.